Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Moin. Good evening. Hello. Sorry, no Jerry, because Ben, we know what you did. Ben is on holiday, so Jerry has some more work to be done in the studio. And because he's on holiday next week and in Sweden, there will be no Jerry next week. Hello, Redverse, Manda, Danley, Crispin. Good evening, everybody. Crispin, tonight is a very special show, especially for you. Ben got banned. Yes, you say so. That badger-loving... Now, would you kindly bend over and cough? Well, technically, yes, no, not really. Since I've been painting these little fellows for the last few times, not during the stream, not inside airbrush would be interesting, but no. We have a very special brown sauce today. Show you if you can read it. It's marine juice. So basically it's a fancy DIY self-made wash in a big quantity. And we will be slopping this all over the miniatures. While I'm doing that, you can do some hobby and we can have a little chit-chat about what happened in the last few days in the Tabletop hobby, which wasn't much, as far as I know. Surely the sales number or pre-order numbers for 40k 11th edition don't seem to be that high, because I didn't see it's been selling out anywhere. Manda, I've seen your... Oops, I slipped with the mouse and now I've got a ton of miniatures. Be careful, don't do that too often. That's unhealthy for your wallet, I find. So let me take you down to the desk, which is about here, and then we need a more light. Ah, isn't that lovely? Here's the marine juice. Here's a brush. That needs to be wet. Oh, and just outside the camera, there's a big open space I've prepared to put all the hopefully good-looking miniatures. So let's start slashing on. Crispin, what have you been up to in regards to hobby? Have you done anything? I've seen you playing Svol lately for a short amount of time. Now Amanda is on a 3-stream streak. Interesting thing. Let's see if this works. Oh, it looks fine. I'm a bit worried that the color I put on these miniatures came up on a bit rough and may loosen. So we will see what happens. Worst that can happen, I need to strip them again. Which would be, yeah, some effort to be made. But as far as I can tell right now, the marine juice is doing a grand job. It's not as darkening as ordinary washes. At the same time, the recesses really do get a nice darkening. I think this will just work like I want it to. Yeah, that looks not too shabby, I think. It won't win any golden demons. But that's not the point of this army, is it? Reaching. This is going to be, I guess, a very long process, so feel free to have any questions at my way, any endearing stories you may have come across. How was your day? Have you been drowned in rain like I've been on the way to the office today? Are you enjoying the weather? Judging by how quickly this wash is being soaked up by the mini, I'm fearing having a single pot of this won't be enough. Why is that? I mean, it's basically just next door. If you're referring to Fantasy World, I'm guessing there's towns further away from Fantasy World than you are, so I wouldn't be too surprised. Plus, we don't have water controls on that anymore, so that's a plus. But I do get the general, oh, that went fast. I was tempted to go in on an eBay sale. Somebody is selling 50 original Rogue Trader era plastic squads. Starting bid was €10, so I'm going to keep an eye on that, on how far this is going to go. I'm guessing it'll be insane by the end. And if not insane, then a lot more than it is right now. I just wish I could share music on stream without the danger of A, Twitch cutting me off because of copyright infringements, and B, YouTube later doing the same again for the video on demand. Or I need to find some copyright-free material that can be shared on stream while doing stuff and not talking to a co-host or other guests. Oh god, nobody wants that reverse. Plus, currently there's playing The Cure, Pictures of You, and that's one way of singing that I won't be able. After a few beers, you might get me to scream some Judas Priest, but that's about it. Oh no. I mounted the army on the side of my computer case, and I forgot that I had unscrewed the side panel, and now I plucked a little guy from there and almost opened the PC case unintentionally, which would have led to an army of nits falling on the table, which is bad. Yeah, the The bone color I sprayed on last on these miniatures really is dusty on this. It's soaking up the liquid like nothing. It's just and gone. It's like skincare after a day in the sun. I try. Maybe this is a bit more interesting now that you can see more details. So do you have any favorite homemade recipes for washes, paints, whatever? I find that the marine juice does really work well, apparently. Though I usually refrain from buying stuff just to make something work. But this time I knew I needed a lot of this stuff, so I just went and bought the ingredients. I'm interested to see how long that stuff actually takes to completely fully dry. It might seem a bit hassle, but in this case it was basically just 3 containers, one Lamia medium, one Reichland flash shade, and a dark tone wash. Dump it into one container, shake, done. Especially on such a thing like this army project, I feel it's worth the effort. And it really works better than thinned down Agrax Earthshade, because that always leaves a very dark brown stain, I feel. The other thing that I DIY'd ages ago was Midwinter Minis version of Lamia Medium, which I still have from the original recipe, so I'm not using very much of it, but works. Excuse me. My coughing is still very bad, as you can hear. For some odd reason, these gloves smell a lot more like rubber and latex than the last batch I got. I'm not sure if I bought the wrong ones or if I've just got more sensitive to the smell. Yeah, Games Workshop paints do have some very interesting highlights in their program. Lamia Medium is one of them. Yes, so basically they're now just primed in their bony color. Now they're getting their wash to get in details, because I don't want the alien purple stuff I want to use for the hard shells to be dulled or dirtied by a wash. Also, these ones where the blades are will be getting a more whitish bony color later on. So claws, fangs. Also, those should be. I didn't want to have stain. Plus, it helps me find the details. I'm with you there, Redverse, except I don't use Typhus Corrosion, but I got Nuln Oil and what's the other wash they have? I can't remember now. Nuln Oil and something. And the only reason why I use those is because I have them, and why buy another brown wash? Jeebus, that's annoying. What's the other? It's a Nuln Oil was the brown wash. What was the dark blackish wash called again? Something? Oh, no, I'm wrong. It's the brown one. That's Agrat's Earthshade. Yeah, you're correct. Apologies, I got it wrong. I should have known from the name oil that that's the black one. So Nuln Oil and Agrat's Earthshade. Look. Amanda, with your big haul that came in today, I just glanced over it. Do you have any project in mind with that, or is that just a haul of things you always wanted or have seen and said, yeah, I need that now, please? It's like painting on sand with this beige color being so sandy. Hello, Mr. Wonky Goblin. You have missed me washing 7 other tyranids. So nothing of importance, basically. Oh, I hate this dry coughing. Ravenwing and Infinity. I couldn't make out the other one. I noticed the Games Workshop stuff, obviously, but I couldn't. In the short time I had time to look at it on the Discord, I didn't see what it was, so yeah. Infinity. The game that keeps me away by having way too talented paintings. It'll be a very bony color for teeth and claws, and then an alien, excuse me, alien purple for the shells. But first, washing and making me see the details. And being very annoyed with myself because I was so impatient with priming that this is part of these models are like just caked. And by caked I don't mean like the paint is on thick. It's just like somebody rolled them in fine sand when they were wet. Well, there's nothing wrong in doing it the traditional style, I think. I really didn't give the color scheme too much of an attention or thought. I only knew I wanted to have some brighty popish colors. And that's very good for you, Manda. But when I see certain paint jobs on packaging for Infinity, I just feel so unprepared. And maybe another reason is there's a few people playing in the local club, and they are all very talented bastards when it comes to painting. So, yeah. In that regard, 40k is much more easier to come by because so many people either do not paint their stuff at all or really use the bare minimum effort method that I do here currently. But I guess that's just part for the course when you're playing a mass battle game and not a skirmisher, where everybody looks at that one miniature. That's at one on one side, having only one game to play is very helpful in a way because you know what to prepare for. On the other side, it's rather boring in the long run. And I do seem to remember that Ben was complaining about this more than once on the show as well, for obvious reasons. Well, yeah, the game system doesn't help, but even if you're playing 40k, you could try playing a different edition. That's maybe more fun. The miniatures don't become invalid at the second you play a different version. Plus, some of your friends might enjoy playing older 40k. And by that way, you coax them into playing something different maybe someday. These tiny magnets, I tell you, these are very, very hard to get off at some point. Sadly, I never played second edition, even though I had the second edition Orc Codex, but that was the very beginning of my journey into this hobby. But I love the writing style. I'm not sure if I would have liked playing the game, actually, if it requires something almost like a Game Master. Third, for all its faults, is a very entertaining game, I think. And my friend and I are having very much fun playing it. Well, at least we have fun when we're not too tired and just sitting at the table, nearly falling asleep like the old men we are. I'm not sure how other people fare in this regard, but the later the evening, the harder, simplest maths get, and yeah, we had quite chuckles. I think, Amanda, the way you approach that hobby problem with people only playing 40k or Games Workshop products is a very reasonable one. Excuse me. On the one side, I was very annoyed for years with my local friendly game store way back when they sold me the second edition Orc Codex, knowingly that there's a new edition around the corner. But in hindsight, that codex is so much fun. I wouldn't want to miss it anymore. I might one day just buy the rest of the codices for second edition just to have some kind of reference material to read through, have a chuckle and a giggle. Yeah, I get the approach. If you bring everything to the party, people tend to taste something new you bring. But it is a lot of effort. And that's one of the reasons why I usually don't do things like demo games. It's just so much work. I mean, there are games you don't need much to bring, so demoing in them isn't that much work. But 40k, for example, that's some cargo you need to haul. Yeah, Deadman's Hand, even Frostgrave is very reasonable if you just have a few little buildings, a few monsters, and a handful of mercenaries. Why is your game bad to move? Is there so much stuff to be had? I thought it's just a handful of tiny little schnotlings and some dice. Have I missed something? Didn't I get the memo? Or am I just ignorant? All could be true at the same time, mind you. I tend to have a very weird perception of stuff people tell me. Sometimes it sticks, and sometimes it just goes out the other ear again. Mr. Keybob, hello. Welcome to the stream without Jerry, who is currently doing work for the studio. Preparing things for the weekend as Mr. Ben has decided to take holidays. That bastard. Oh, well, technically, if the boards are one piece and you don't need to disassemble them, that makes demoing easier to a degree, unless you do not have a vehicle that is capable of transporting said table. I'm not sure who at Games Workshop thought that this small contact point for a miniature was enough. Who actually greenlit that design? I mean, it looks nice, but damn, I'm always scared to rip off the feet of these. Oh no, why am I making such a mess? Horrible. Any bets? Will I be able to wash all? I don't know how many. I think it's close to 100. Tyranids in one session. Will I be able to do this in one sitting? Will my mind blur before that? So technically transportation is not an issue for your setup then. But does it go through an ordinary household door, or do you need more than one person to help you carry? Yeah, 2 sections, so yeah, that's some work that has to be put into assembly and disassembly. I'm still contemplating on how to do multiple boards, or modular boards rather, without having very obvious seam lines. Because that seems always to be the biggest design problem, I feel. At the seams where the actual board pieces come together just have a gap, which looks not nice. Haven't found a solution to that problem yet. Especially not a generic solution that works on multiple terrains and designs. Next. Maybe I should put the juice a bit closer so I don't go off camera as much. I'm really glad I put on gloves. Initially I thought, no, this can be done without gloves, but I think my hands would look terrible by now. Next. Yeah, it would pick up details on my hands, and being paranoid about personal security already as is, I feel I don't need to emphasize my thumbprint lines on camera. Because, in case you hadn't noticed, there have been made efforts to reproduce the fingerprint from people from high definition video, and yeah, it worked. Which is a fucking scary thought, if you ask me. I mean, just imagine you're just putting your hands on the camera, waving someone, and some bad actor gets hold of that video footage, recreates your fingerprint, and is able to unlock your phone. Yeah, that's a security nightmare par excellence. I'm not saying that these gloves are smelling of rubber and latex. But I will say, if I had a rubber and latex fetish, I'd have quite a stiffy right now. Jeez, these are smelly. And actually, I'm quite happy I started painting in the wash on the minis that I've got the most from, because this is a rather tedious task, if you ask me. I know some people find this very relaxing, and I thought I'd be too, but right now, at this very moment, it's a wee bit, I'm not saying discomforting, but it's not as satisfying as I would have liked it to be. That could but also be a problem because I feel like I'm sitting in a odd angle and having a wee bit of a too much tension in my shoulder right now. Anybody volunteering to do a massage? No? Oh, didn't thought so. Dry brushing is another thing. Usually, I don't do as much dry brushing, so it's okay. Plus, the results of dry brushing feel much more immediate, and you don't need to wait for it to dry to continue painting. So there's that. Oh, Wonky Goblin got back the quotes for the test rulebook print run. Did you sit down for the quote, or wasn't it that as bad as expected? I wouldn't. I don't think I could guess how much a print run of a rulebook in any capacity would be costing today. Plus, are you going for a proper self-published book, or are you doing a something like a spiral-bound, semi-pro, hobbyish level rulebook? I, for my part, think I'd like to have rulebooks in a spiral-bound format way more often than not. Simply because you can just leave them at a certain page without having the fear of breaking the spine of the book. always gives me the creep when I see somebody opening a book and just cracking the spine to have an easier time to read. It's just, no, you don't do that to books. Hardback paper, well. I mean, to be fair, hardcover books look more nice on the shelf. Once again, I think I miscounted my tyranids. Oh, flat lying books is nice. But yeah, the page limitation is a thing. I'm guessing you're not going over 89 pages currently? That's something that often really keeps me from getting more interested in games when I read, yeah, there's a rule book. It has 200 and something odd pages. Oh, there's your problem. So condense it by reducing font size, condensing it by leaving out stuff, or doing a 2-volume book. Make 2 books with 64 pages. Like Gorkamorka did with the rule book and the other book. And also, does the 128 pages include any graphics or pictures? Or is that just the rules text? With pictures, yeah. I guessed as much. So the proper book layout with all bells and whistles like people expect from a finished product. Have you any preferences? Do you want to condense the book, or would you rather dismiss the it lays flat on the surface part of it? More turnips! While we're on the subject of rulebooks, I feel, and that's a very personal feeling that I have in regards to Games Workshop's product cycle, that having a new rule set out every 3 years is way too quick. Even if there's a competent team behind it and theoretically would be putting out flawless rules, I don't want to relearn rules for a game I play every 3 years. That's just annoying. And I feel that the current sales numbers, or pre-order numbers rather, seem to implicate that other people are sick and tired of that cycle too. But maybe that's just my imagination. I totally understand that, Redverse. That's the reason why I stopped when I played 40k more actively in my late 20s, 25 years ago. It was just new rulebook again, new codex again. Just it feels so unnecessary. I mean, I get why they do it from a company standpoint, but it doesn't help the hobby. And another one! The biggest problem with doing these en masse is just you start to get very, at least I'm starting to get very sloppy with slapping on the marine juice. And I'm afraid I'm going to miss some critical spots, which will be highly annoying later on. I guess that's a reasonable pace. 5 years. Plus, why change a rule system anyhow or anyway? If a, a rule system is made good, sturdy, and works, there shouldn't be much need of tweaking and fixing. I mean, to a degree, Battletech has stayed unchanged for a very long time. Especially if you just go down the core mechanics. Some numbers may have changed to balance things out, but all in all, it's the same game it was for 40 years now. And I think what really drove me off the cliff from Games Workshop products was with the second to last release for Blood Bowl. Because, yeah, you got your rulebook, and then there was the weird magazine you had to buy and read if you wanted to stay in any kind of competitive way. And then they added even articles in White Dwarf that were deemed mandatory for what you call it, organized play, which I found very annoying. Especially, I wasn't aware of that for a very long time because I didn't read the White Dwarf, only had the core set, and when I played someone at club and they suddenly pulled out weird stuff I've never heard and seen before. That was a bit frustrating. And I feel I sound like an old man because I know I've told this story more than once, potentially. The 60th test game. And who won? Or let me rephrase, how many of your test games have you won? How many have your friends won? Or don't you participate in games and just watch and take note? You lost. I mean, if you didn't lose on purpose, intentionally, um, either your mate is a better gamer or your game has some flaws you didn't notice. Or it was just sheer luck. You always lose when you teach a game. Well, if you're actively teaching, you're more or less playing yourself in that situation. So you one could say you're playing 2 against 1 at that point. I like to believe, Zorg, that Games Workshop did at one point really care about customers. But that's a long time ago. In case you didn't notice, this is the recasted pair of arms. Yeah, if looked at individual, they still look a bit off. But believe me when I say you really have to look for them when the whole lot is sitting on the table. Yeah, I blame the camera for you not noticing. It really looks horrible. It's like a mutant arm. But who cares? It's a filthy Xenos. He gets killed anyway. So, this is the last one of these kinds. We're down roughly 1/3 of the whole lot. So my guess is I'm not going to be able to finish this in one sitting. Because I just took a look at the clock and oh god, it's already an hour. An hour of washing miniatures. Oh, and speaking of watching people paint stuff and dry, I really do enjoy the fact that Mel is finally seemingly over the hump. Even the little technical difficulties on Sunday when the live stream went kaput didn't keep him from doing another video explaining what happened and how his plans are moving forward. I am confident that this might be the breaking point where he has actually gone past of the point where I'm afraid he will just vanish again. Welcome back, Mel. Now, so these parts will be purpley when I'm done with all of them. At least that's the plan. Yeah, and actually looking good is I think the key phrasing for Mel. He doesn't look like he's been haunted by anything at the moment. So fingers crossed he can pull this through and get back to a regular schedule and enjoy hobby again as a means of income. These come out much better looking, I find, with the marine juice. I'm very tempted just to grab one of the big guys and see how that looks after slopping on the juice and the wash and everything else. But I know if I start going cross section, I will lose my method to the madness. So I need to temper myself and stay on the course I've plotted for this exercise in army painting. It's really fascinating looking at the miniature, then looking at the stream, how much different it looks on camera. It's way brighter than it actually is. Wonky spent today setting up a laptop with Windows 11. Yeah, it's not fun. If you have a program you want to use under Linux that does not support Linux natively, there's a program that adds software layers so that you can run Windows programs on Linux. It was initially made for games, because that's the driving force for everything on PC. But I found it works great with very many Windows programs. That's the Heroic Games Launcher. It implements Wine, the Windows emulation layers for Linux. Also Proton, that is the software layer Steam uses for making Linux games, Windows games playable on Linux. And it detects rather competently which setting works the best. So if you really want to get rid of Windows, you might try that. Heroic Games Launcher. And to be honest, I have no experience with desktop publishing, so I couldn't tell if there's any reasonable, good working open source alternative. Most things I used in the late 2010s on Windows professionally, I have now substituted with open source software. Mostly because it's free, and secondly because it just does the same and sometimes even better, and most times under Linux. I have had contact with Scribbles, and yeah, that's an acquired taste. But at the same time, I'm not sure if that's just maybe something one needs to get used to when switching from another software. Because I had problems with using GIMP for the first time. But now it's, well, it just works. Does what Photoshop used to do. Only for free. Without any AI scraping. That being said, I'm still haven't found time or energy to to try DaVinci Resolve, because that seems to be the only good video editing software for Linux. Yeah, and it doesn't help if you're using a software that works great for you, but you don't have any means of exporting files to get them print professionally. I get that. What do we learn with the little shooty tyranids? Less arms, less paint needed. I think when I'm done with all these, this brush is done for. He feels like he's starting to lose integrity. I know you've told me before, Wonky, but when did you plan to start releasing your game? Or did you even decide on when to put it out to the public? A blender I had tried to use, but that's a behemoth of a software. That needs hardware to run properly. Do you plan on doing any kind of closed beta? Maybe grab some people outside of your circle of friends. Or do you feel that demoing the game already got rid of most of the problematic stuff? Yeah, Redverse Blender is a thing. That's for sure. When I first tried to do some 3D sculpting on a very basic level for basically visualizing how I wanted to set up my kitchen when we moved here, I quickly left Blender and his company to the side and used SketchUp. That works much more efficiently for a novice user. Well, you are designing miniatures, so you should be using Blender and not something like DaVinci Resolve, which is basically just for videos. Also, I'm not very much aware of any other 3D sculpting software that's prominent or dominant or popular right now. Though that might just be me not being interested in doing anything 3D related currently. ZBrush, that's a name I had heard, yeah, but I never really looked into it more. I always thought it would be more like a plugin or something. But now that you mention it, yeah, I guess I've heard that one before as well. See, that's how my brain works. Not at all. Forgetting everything all of the time, every time. Works perfectly in 80% of 90% of the cases or something. What, a tool is overkill for something you would use it for? How can that be? I think I need to clean the side of my PC. More than one miniature came off, and the what you call it, the super glue fumes have discolored or misted uh, the side of it. Well, you live and learn. Never put on miniatures with freshly glued in magnets on the side of your computer. The UI can't be that horrible if it's still widely used. Or people are just gluttons for punishment, which can also be very true. So if I think back to the very early beginnings of when I did streaming at a bit of video, I used a program called OpenShot. You don't get more basic on a video editing program than that. But at the same time, it's very potent. Yeah, unless your menus are built in 1/8 scale or something. But I think at that point, having pores and wrinkles is one of your least problems for good sculpting, I guess. On a totally unrelated note, but since your work is all digital, do you have a good backup plan for your data in place, or are you just relying on one drive where all your models sit? If so, might this old administrator highly recommend you getting yourself some proper backup? just to be safe, to sleep better at night. Backups are important, people. Believe me. Do you check your auto backups regularly? I know I sound like an old teacher asking these questions, but at the same time, I know why I'm asking them. I fell for that trap, believing, yeah, it's all set up. Logs say it's okay. And I never tried recovering data from that backup, which almost went fatally wrong. Yeah, that's it. It's just you won't get this out of your system once you've seen how things should be done. And that's not to say that I do them properly as I preach, but that doesn't invalidate the argument. Have one backup on site for fast recovery, one backup off site, so out of your home for emergency recoveries. Yeah, if you see somebody really cry about, oh no, I never backed up the picture folder from my phone and now my phone is on the bottom of the lake. Yeah. It's hard and heartbreaking at sometimes. especially if it's data that's really unreproducible, like the first pictures of your child or something. Then I will say no more. It sounds like you have your shit sorted, dear sir, and I do salute you for it. It always pains me when I see people being very careless with their data. I mean, yeah, I don't care about my game installs, and I can even live with the loss of potentially my electronic address book. But no, there's some things I don't want to lose ever. Plus, once implemented, it's usually not much maintenance. It brings a lot of peace of mind, and even if you're not you specifically, Wonky, but if people would just once a year take half a day to make sure that every data they want to keep is stored somewhere else other than their phone or their PC. God, this brush looks terrible. I wouldn't have thought that washing tyranids would be so hard on these poor brushes. But then again, I lost more than one glove during the process of stripping the miniatures, because all the tiny claws and fangs are very pointy and rip your gloves apart, which was very annoying because I put on gloves to not have black thumbs and such, and still got black thumbs. 35 million triangles. That's a fucking huge number. Polygons, that's the word I was looking for. Can somebody explain to me how it can be that I've stripped these minis, glued these minis, and then primed and started painting these minis, and I still missed some very obvious mistakes on them. There's more than one of these gene stealers now that I found having still some kind of sprue gate sitting there on the back of the hoof. Annoying. Well, something to fix before final paint stage, I guess, when things are dry. Makes me wonder how Jerry gets painted anything the way he's being very particular about bold lines and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Unwashed masses, literally. I think that's just par for the course when doing army painting. You just don't pay attention always, all the time, on everything. You get. I'm not sure if there's a English word for it. The German word I'm looking for is betriebsblind. Being blind for stuff that happens during shift would be the literal translation. Progress blindness, kinda, sorta. 1 million triangles. Try to look up how many quote unquote triangles the first 3D games like Lara Croft, etc. had at their disposal. It's, I think, a bit less than you are using for your miniatures. I think it was still a 2-digit counters for one model. Yeah, I've heard good things about the casting quality over Moonstone miniatures. On that front, Star Wars Legion has really picked up the pace. The new hard plastic sets barely have anything that needs to be removed. At least the sets that I had in my hands so far. Not sure how they managed to do that, but very nice quality. Yeah, I think the chest area of Lara Croft from the original game was about 4 or 5 triangles. It wasn't that much. And still people played the game over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Not me, though. I was more the Resident Evil playing type. I could replay Resident Evil one of these days. If people want to have a real giggle, just compare the pure resolution of screens 20 years ago until now. I think 20 years ago was the start of HD, if I remember correctly, which was 720p, or even just SVGA with 640 by 420 question mark. And today there's so many pixels on screen you can't even tell them apart. Which is kind of the point, but still. Some numbers haven't changed much, but the measurement has changed. So from 8 megabyte of RAM, we're now at 8 gigabytes of RAM. From a hard drive that has the capacity of 520 megabytes, we're now at 520 gigabytes. It's so silly. Yes, they had NTSC, which had a few lines less, but the games were quicker because they worked on a different frequency, especially on the older consoles like the SNES. 60 hertz, if I remember correctly. 3, 4, 8, 8. Oh no, I splotched again. Terrible me. No, come here, you. We're not wasting anything, are we? Excuse me. I had to sing a song there. I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I feel with the wash on, they really start to look like proper miniatures again. Like there could be something in them. There could be something worth painting. Why is there stuff hanging out? Well, the color thing is a completely different can of worms. Yeah, and I hope when the claws and fangs get their right color added and small dots of red and purpley carpi are painted on, it'll just pull everything together. And I'm still very undecided in regards on how and if to base the miniatures. I'm very much tempted to not paint the bases at all and just leave them black, as with most of my minis. But at the same time, it feels like that would be a shame to have a nicely painted army and just plain black bases. But then again, all my Legion looks like that. Maybe I will do something I've never done before and do a test mini when I'm done with these. Oh, Philips CDI. That's a nightmare name I haven't heard in a long time. Just paint them goblin green is actually one possibility. Though I'm not sure if goblin green would work with hive purpley carpusses. But then again, who cares? And we're on the almost on the closing stretch of the mass army part. There's only these gene stealers left. Then another 8 with just talons, some spore mines, and after that it's just the big uns. Oh, and not forget the gargoyles. Oh, the Commodore Amiga CD TV. Yeah, but I would love to get my hands on an Amiga CD32. Those things are so rare. And they go for so much money, it's insane. Even though it's just a Amiga 500 in a box with a CD drive. But I love playing Wing Commander on it. In the store, there was a demo station. Amiga CD32 and Wing Commander. That was fun. Not very much, no. Most of them were just Amiga games that were made CD compatible. But that's the reason why it's so a highly collectible system. There weren't that many available. I've heard about Chinese graphics card trying to push into the market. The only positive thing for them to say is they are available. And you don't have to sell your kidneys to get one. But that's about what positivity you can tell about them currently. Well, that being said, once China starts trying to capture a market, they usually plunge in with so much money that sooner or later they will have a good product or reasonable product. I'm not sure I would want to buy a Chinese-made GPU, to be honest. I wouldn't trust it to not spy on me. Yeah, actually, China has been trying to get into the graphics card, the CPU market, and is also now producing their own RAM chips. And in a economy where all these things are getting harder and harder to acquire for a reasonable price, their offerings do look better by the minute. Even though they're still more or less yesterday's technology. But it's proven, it works, and it's cheaply made available. Yeah, it's not only SSDs. Everything that comes with a chip in it that stores memory is mental. And on the one side, I really wish this AI bubble to explode in the faces of everybody investing in it. But at the same time, I know if that bubble goes, there's high potential for everything going south quickly. So, we shall see. Virtual Boy. Didn't Nintendo release a Switch version of that? Including a cardboard box you could put on your Switch and emulate that thing? Yeah, that's again that's an example for a collectible video game piece history. That's just because it's rare and interesting. Yeah, I'm not looking at prices anymore. At least not for me personally. I'm getting the creeps when I see what system builders are now charging for a system that was 2,000 euros last year or the year before, and now it's almost double the price. It's insane. And all because of the greedy bastards. Not being content with much money, but wanting to have all of the money. Next type of... Uh-oh. I'm still afraid that one of these guys is actually glued to the PC case because I was impatient. So far, none of them are. Let's keep it that way. Maybe with any luck, at the end of the year, things will calm down again. Prices will go down to a reasonable level without crashing any economies or causing crises around the housing markets. Ever since Harambe died, the world has gone to shit. That sounds like an actual product description. I do remember that a few years ago I've seen reports from car magazines on newly released Chinese knockoff cars of European manufacturers, so SUVs and the likes. And yeah, they drive great, they look nice, they feel comfortable, but once you crash them, you're gone. They just fold it into themselves like they're made of paper. Which looked a bit scary, to be honest. I wouldn't trust my life with those. Excuse me. Good night, Manda. Hope you have fun with your newly acquired toys. You're not giving us the chance to watch paint dry, don't I? I thought you were doing nothing else. We can have a look at the first one we painted. Not quite dry yet. I still see wet spots. But overall, I like how it turned out. Go back in the queue. I think we need to make some overtime today because I don't want to end the stream and not have finished this batch when I'm this close to actually having covered them all. So if you are so inclined, you are very welcome to stay and continue to watch me paint little washes on little miniatures, covering tyranids in space marine juice. Oh no, pardon me, marine juice, not space marine juice, just marine juice. We don't want to give the stuff a different name now. My hands are starting to get sweaty. The nice thing about this wash method is it's very forgiving for moving the pigments around. I was actually thinking about, after having covered them all in wash, if I should go back with a bone color and just dry brush. But to be fair, I'm starting to get annoyed by painting nids. It's getting a wee bit tedious, to say the least. Yeah, it might get them a bit more pop, but at the same time, it's one additional step. And there's a lot of them. I might contemplate on that thought, though, because in my mind, in theory, that really would potentially make a difference on how they look. As I said a few minutes ago, maybe I'll do a test piece, painting it all the way to see how the end result might look. Oh, I'm guessing there are many color schemes for tyranids that can be way more annoying. And I'm also guessing that people would like to paint the space between the joints in completely different colors to maybe suggest that there's open flesh or something, but I just can't be arsed. Because these are for gaming, not for display. And adding detail can always be done later. At least that's what many people on the internet and on the YouTube say when they paint their stuff. Now, gargoyles. Let's see how this works. These are actually... I'm not sure how this is going to work. Well, that's on you then if you start repainting stuff because you change resolutions. That's self-inflicted harm. And again, that's one advantage about miniatures you buy already done. You're not getting tempted and rescaling them. I'm pretty sure I'm going to miss spots on these gargoyles. These sculpts are so intricate in places, and I'm having a hard time seeing where I was with washes. But that will be a problem for future me. Snapping resin. You could implement that as a gaming mechanic. If you drop your goblin and it snaps into multiple pieces, you got the same amount of smaller goblins. Actually, I do really begin to like this silly idea about breaking your miniatures and having multiple smaller units for it. Oh no, the fungi is spreading. Flop, 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 flop. Five more gargoyles to go. An unknown quantity of spore mines. I think 10. And then we're on to the big guys. People might notice I have no real method of painting these. I'm just going willy-nilly all over them. Hoping for the best. Preparing for the worst. And with my luck, these miniatures are not on the table for a very long time because they all get shot to death in a really quick succession. Or something. Oh, that's nice. Having your opponent's dead minis come back to haunt them. If I remember correctly, and sadly we can't ask Jerry because he's not here. If I remember correctly, there's some method of that in Bot War as well. Well, I'm not sure if that's with other factions, or just if your soldiers are dead, you can bring them back as zombies. Putting limits on getting enemies back on the table as your own. You sure about that? Is that necessary? Can't you just, oh, dead people, all mine? I was confused for a second. The whole time the music playback in the background was English text, and now for some odd reason the shuffle function decided to go into German classics. 80s pop songs. Good night, Raspberries. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you next week again. Yeah, I wasn't being too serious about that. I see the potential pitfalls on a mechanic like that. But me being the silly old man I am, I would find it amusing if the table was swarmed with my dead minions. Seconds to last gargoyle. Rebuilding the metal gargoyles was actually a chore because the wings have weird fittings and didn't want to stay in place once I applied superglue. Very annoying, that. No, I don't think it's necessary to make undead versions. It's a fun gag for maybe the first time, but when people start playing your game in a grander scale, you would need to have multiple undeads, and yeah, it's such. I don't think that's feasible. It's fun for demo games, but or as an option. Maybe as a promotional figure or something, or limited edition, or as a giveaway for people who buy your rulebook at a convention like Salute or something. How did you even come to the idea of I want to make my own game? I don't think I've asked you that before. I mean, they say everybody has a game in them. I do not agree with that sentiment because I sure as hell don't have a game in me. At best, an idea for a game, but not a game. You did one for Halloween and you got carried away. Well, I'd say there are worse things you can do on Halloween and get carried away with them. Making a miniatures game seems to be on the more sensible side of things. Though it does make a good story for when people would be start to write your biography. Gargoyles done! Yay! Uh, all games are terrible for goblins. Do I need to mention Gorka Morka? Goblins are actually nice in Gorka Morka, I think. When Dared Gobo comes to collect the loot. And in fantasy, they're actually a force to be reckoned with. Blood Bowl, they're also fun. And yes, I know I'm only bringing up Games Workshop games. That's because I do not have very much experience in other games that contain goblins or goblinoid races. What's a dead game? Gorkamorka? Well, it's not supported anymore. I don't think it's dead. I think there's still a very vivid community around it. I got a set and need to finish it, paint it, and building and have fun with it. Why are you stopping the audio, stupid computer? My PC is starting to look like a PC again and not some bug-infested thing. That indeed is true. Blood Bowl goblins are random. But if you have ever played goblins with a troll and managed to make a kickoff goal in one turn and seen the look of your opponent's face, that's worth it. I've only managed to do that once, but Jeebus was that fun. Pick up bowl, pick up goblin. Do not eat goblin, throw goblin, land. Run the last few bigs, points scored. The crowd goes wild. Oh no, we're 10 minutes over my usual pastime. Horrible, horrible news. I'll continue streaming until I'm done now. Because I can see the end of the tunnel. Second to last, Spore Mine. Speaking of spores, will your game contain spores of any sorts of kind? Will they look anything like Games Workshop spore mines, or will they look completely different? Well, yes, that's the potential danger to having a troll in your team, that he's being stupid. But it makes all the more fun than when it works. Troll remembering not to be stupid, troll remembering not to eat teammate, but to throw teammate. Aha! Now for some of the big guys. This is going to be interesting. Yeah, but what I meant was as a gaming piece of sorts. So maybe something to collect or run around. Decorative pieces are a given, I think. Gee, was this undercoating? I'm not sure what happened when I primed them in the very hot sun, but the paint is really working like a sponge. It just soaks the wash up. I'm starting to lose concentration. Next big one. Mushroom, mushroom, mushroom. Have you gone through the hassle of making them all by yourself, or did you use pre-made mushrooms for those? Made from scratch. You are a proper loony. Do you know that? Have I told you this before? You are a loony. I'm pretty sure other people would have taken some shortcuts and just bought some weird mushroomy STLs or looked for free models on the interwebs. Well, that's good then. If you're aware that you're a loony, that's the first step into being a better loony. I feel most people would be more happy with themselves if they started to embrace their inner lunatic a bit more. Not be so serious at so many occasions. Maybe try to be a bit more relaxed and chic and boned about stuff. But yeah, that's obviously not the world we're living in. Have I gotten all to the spots? I hope so. Go with it. I'm not sure that these arms are actually belonging to this model. But they were on there. They stay on there. Well, good on you. Having finished stuff is, I think, one of the most rewarding feelings in our hobby. Having finished stuff and be happy with the result. Ah! See, I'm losing it. Getting late. I dropped a nid. Any ideas on what you want to do with the backdrop? We're down to 4 models. Have you thought about using any of the backdrop books in the larger format? The backdrop box, I forgot what they're called. They are in A3 size, so 40 by 30. Not sure if that's big enough for you. Also, you could just add a digital background for promotional pictures, I feel. So not a generated, but use the background with some kind of green screen and use a proper sized digital image to put in behind. Use some kind of what do you call it? Filter to make it a bit blurry, like the background is supposed to be. I think Bad Squirrel Annie has these books in her library, but I can't really tell. Ah, this little bugger is heavy. Metal poor. You go there. here is his friend, also very much heavy. This could not only be used as a weapon, this is a blunt force trauma weapon. I'd be highly worried for my feet if I drop this. Especially since I took special care to make sure that the joints were free of old superglue before I re-glued everything so that it's properly seated and connection is strong. So I'm hoping these won't come apart as easy as they've done before when I got them. Yeah, I'm going to wait for the last miniature of the evening. That will be the Hive Tyrant, which is the big boy in almost all metal. Have I gotten everything? I think so. Jesus Christ, this is a monster. Second to last. I think I need a lot of fluid. Flow, you bastard. Flow everywhere. Six-millimeter epic scale. Yeah, that's. I think that's more easily painted. Plus, it won't strain your arms as much. Getting in all these nooks and crannies is really... And the worst part is I just removed all the paint from these crevices and parts, and now I'm shoving paint back in, and it just feels wrong. To a degree. Oh, Man of War, that's a game that's interesting on itself. Because it's so silly. And I think it's also one of those that's highly collectible, if I remember correctly. With all the fancy boats and sails and wizard towers on ships. Well, eBay isn't really a point of reference, but it's just... It seems like everybody who played it when it first came out kept their copy. And only now when people start to die off and need money for other reasons, suddenly slowly stock appears. Same for Battlefleet Gothic, or the before mentioned Epic 40k. Still very much annoyed that I didn't grab the difference between 40k and Epic 40k faster and jumped on the last train to Epic 40k when it was still new and available. If I only had known it back then. Was the remake badly received because it's a completely different rule set, or is there any reason for it? God, it must be really getting late. I'm starting to stick out my tongue while painting. Like a 5-year-old. I think I got everything. Last mini of the day. I say mini. Let me zoom out for this. This boy is metal. God. Oh, when it's just a one-off game, yeah, that's that explains why it didn't go very much. feels like a nostalgia's cash grab from G-dubs. Oh no! That's the kind of thing that sticks with you. I do remember I went to the local comic and game store when I was about 12 or something and sold off my Transformers toys, my Star Wars toys, and some other random bits and bobs for way too little money. Still can't figure out why I did that. I mean, the money went into buying parts for my C64 later, but that wasn't the plan when I sold the stuff. Maybe I should have started with the heavy guys. This is getting tiresome. And I do think it was a good way of action to start with the wash. I don't think I could have used the washes in a good way after things are painted. Oh god. That's almost as bad as a story as Lloyd and Warren's mum giving away their Star Wars toys. Never gift away your children's toys without speaking to them. Oh, you lucky bastard. To be fair, the Transformers were nice to have, and I regret giving them away, or selling them rather. But the thing that annoys me way more are my Star Wars toys. I didn't have many of the big ones, but I had a lot of those who didn't appear in the movies and were made after Return of the Jedi. I wish I would have kept those. I think the brush is almost toast. And yes, I'm aware that I'm dripping like silly. But I can't be helped. I want to get done. If it runs into all the nooks and crannies I can't get with the brush, then that's fine. Yeah. If you have seen the Mandalorian and Grogu movie in the cinema currently, there's a scene at the very beginning where they hunt a ex-Imperial officer and he flees from a AT-AT with a very interesting looking pod. That's one of those toys that were made at the time of the original trilogy that never appeared in the movie. I had one of those. I loved that thing to bits. It looked like somebody took the cockpit section of the shuttle and just put some wings on it. Hello, Zoid Pinhead. You late. Fucking hell. I has done it. I'm finished. Jesus Christ. That was a mission. It's not the best movie ever, but it's fun. It's enjoyable. It has more than one reference to the old stuff. Now, how do I get you out of here? Jeeves. I got some schmutz on my mat. Now, we need a closing shot for this. Let me see how far I can zoom out without being... That's about it. Let's see how far I can push this. That's it. That's all of them. Let's zoom down a bit. Whoop. Yeah, I do think they have just enough definition now to be shaded properly. And I'm very convinced that when I add bone white colors to teeth and claws and purplies to the carapaces, they will look great. Yes, everything is covered in juice. See? It has been a fuck ton of work. And it only took 2 hours and 45 minutes. Which is more than I would have guessed. Less than I was afraid of. But... Oh, light. The exam is over. Ooh, sweaty hands. Glue strands, maybe for the big guys, using some Uhu and red paint, mix it up primer, and then, but that's a level of dedication I'm not going to say I'm going to do just now. For now, I need to wash my hands and then go to sleep and have a night of hopefully better sleep than the last 2 nights. So everybody who was on stream, regardless of when they joined, thank you for being here. If you on YouTube are actually watching this almost 3-hour video of me painting wash on a miniature, thank you, I guess. Get a hobby. Next week, just to be clear on that, there will be no Jerry as well because holidays. So don't turn in if you want to see Jerry because he won't be here. Maybe we'll be painting. Maybe I'll be preparing different stuff if I find the time. If not, it'll be more of the same, won't it? See you then next week. Goodbye.